I think George is the best slide player that I've ever heard. He's so accurate on it, and he makes it sing, and he makes it cry, and he makes it do anything really. And he can hold out a pure note with just beautiful vibrato that is so even.
At the age of 78, the legendary Jeff Lynne suddenly broke a silence that had lasted for over 2 decades. The leader of ELO revealed for the first time the never-before-seen dark sides of the tragic final chapter of his soulmate, George Harrison. The death of the former Beatles member contained a series of brutal events far beyond anything the public ever knew. Behind the heavily fortified fortress lay hidden corners filled with blood tears and even human cruelty during his final moments. What secrets have been buried for 25 years? And why is the truth only being exposed now? The shocking answer will be brought to light in the following special documentary report. The year 2001 marked the tragic final chapter in the life of the former Beatles member. Following a failed assassination attempt in 1999, George Harrison's health declined severely. His heavily compromised immune system allowed lung cancer cells to aggressively resurge. Medical reports confirmed the devastating news for the Harrison family that the cancer had metastasized to his brain. The malignant tumors grew rapidly, directly threatening his life. In search of a slim chance of survival, he embarked on an arduous medical journey across continents. The former singer's first stop was a leading specialized oncology hospital in Switzerland. There he underwent grueling rounds of chemotherapy which failed to yield positive results. His worsening medical condition forced his family to relocate him to the United States. Harrison was transferred to Staten Island University Hospital in New York for radiation therapy. At this point, he faced agonizing physical pain caused by the pressure of the tumors. Doctors were forced to administer high-dose painkillers, leaving him in a semi-conscious state. It was in this very hospital room that a medical scandal shocking the world took place, sparking widespread public outrage. Dr. Gilbert Lederman, the head of the radiation therapy department at the time, exploited the patient's critical condition to profit illicitly from the global music legend's fame. Legal records explicitly state that Lederman entered the room unauthorized while Harrison was emaciated and had no family members present to protect him. The doctor brought along a guitar and a few cards. Disregarding the patient's semi-conscious state, he roughly grabbed his frail hand. Lederman forced Harrison to sign the personal items he had brought as gifts for his son. Investigation reports indicate that Harrison was completely helpless, only able to whisper in vain as the doctor deliberately manipulated his fingers to produce a scrawled signature. Immediately upon discovering the incident, his wife Olivia and son Donnie were filled with immense outrage. They promptly filed a lawsuit against Dr. Lederman for extortion and exploitation, accusing him of severely violating noble medical ethics. The prolonged lawsuit shocked American public opinion and severely damaged the medical industry's reputation. Ultimately, both parties reached a strictly confidential settlement to end the dispute. Under the court order, the guitar bearing the forced signature had to be completely destroyed. Amidst those dark days in New York, the friendship of their youth returned to comfort the artist. His 2 former bandmates, Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, secretly visited Harrison at the hospital. Their final reunion took place in a private setting filled with tears of deep compassion. The 3 Beatles legends held hands tightly, reminiscing together about a brilliant golden era gone by. Even with a completely exhausted body, Harrison still attempted to project optimism. Ringo Starr choked up as he recalled his friend's words, "Do you want me to come with you?" Observing the relentless pursuit by the paparazzi outside the New York hospital, Paul McCartney decided to intervene. He discreetly arranged a highly secure hospital transfer plan to relocate Harrison to a secret mansion under his personal ownership in Beverly Hills. This relocation was kept strictly confidential to ensure maximum peace and privacy for the singer. At the safe house in Los Angeles, Harrison spent his final hours peacefully surrounded by the love of his family and heartfelt prayers. On November 29, 2001, George Harrison drew his final breath at the age of 58 in California. To evade malicious media scrutiny, his death certificate was registered under a pseudonym, bringing closure to the tumultuous life of a musical legend. Following this immense loss, the Harrison family issued an emotional official statement to the public. They wrote, "George left this world as he lived, always conscious of God, not afraid of death, and at peace." As George drew his final breath to enter eternity, the world mourned a legend. For Jeff Lynne, the death of his close friend marked the beginning of a psychological burden spanning multiple decades. The delayed dying wish. The passing of George Harrison in late 2001 left an unfillable void in the hearts of global fans. For his soulmate Jeff Lynne, this was the exact moment he had to face an immensely heavy musical responsibility. Before drawing his final breath, Harrison trustingly handed over the entire box of unfinished demo tapes to Lynne, along with a solemn final request. The former Beatles member had carefully instructed, "Don't make it too polished." This final wish posed a difficult challenge for the renowned music producer of ELO. The rough recordings contained raw, rustic ideas heavily imbued with Harrison's profound spiritual philosophy during his final days. Exactly 4 months after the tearful funeral, Jeff Lynne officially began his journey to fulfill his promise. Together with the late artist's son, Donnie Harrison, he entered the secret studio, opening the tape boxes filled with memories. The process of completing the posthumous album titled Brainwashed, released in late 2002, became a haunting experience. Lynne admitted that this was the loneliest and most painful musical project in his entire illustrious career. For months on end, the brilliant producer had to sit for hours listening to each monologued lyric. The familiar ukulele strumming of his departed friend echoed throughout the empty studio, creating immense psychological pressure. The emptiness multiplied manifold when Lynne realized there was no longer anyone there to argue or complain about the musical notes. All major decisions regarding arrangement and production now rested entirely on his shoulders and those of Harrison's son, Donnie. Although the Brainwashed album subsequently achieved great commercial success and received praise from international critics, Lynne still chose to remain silent. He resolutely refused to participate in in-depth interviews regarding Harrison's final days. The reason for this silence, lasting over 2 decades, was recently revealed candidly by the musician. Lynne wanted to protect the utmost privacy for the Harrison family against waves of malicious media exploitation of scandals. Entering the year 2026 at the age of 78 with the passage of time, Jeff Lynne finally decided to officially break his long-standing silence. In a special documentary report, he opened his heart for the first time about the psychological burdens following his friend's death. Looking back at the course of musical history, the elderly musician expressed profound admiration for Harrison's innate talent. He emphasized that the former Beatles member's unique slide guitar technique was irreplaceable. In his latest interview, Lynne choked up as he asserted, "George was the only one who could make the guitar cry and laugh." This heartfelt declaration immediately evoked emotional memories in the hearts of millions in the public. Alongside the tribute, Lynne could not hide his bitterness when mentioning the cascading tragedies at the end of his friend's life. He called what Harrison had to endure from the failed assassination attempt to the extortion a cruel injustice. More than 20 years have passed, and George Harrison's artistic legacy lives on thanks to the silent support of those left behind. The eternal friendship between him and Jeff Lynne transcends the boundaries of life and death, becoming a beautiful symbol in the music world. To understand the root cause of the psychological burden that Jeff Lynne kept secret, this report will take the audience back in time to the post-Beatles years. That was the darkest period where the first nightmares began to imprison George Harrison's ego in fear. The imprisoned ego. The 1970s opened a melancholy new chapter for George Harrison right after the legendary band, the Beatles, officially disbanded. He always had to live under the massive shadow of his 2 talented bandmates, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. This suffocation accumulated as Harrison's independent artistic contributions were frequently ignored. The pressure of global fame began to drain his creative energy and made him resent the music industry. Although his debut solo album was a huge success, the former Beatles member still could not find peace. He candidly admitted regarding the music industry, "It makes me so tired when having to face the wheel of exploitation." His internal melancholy drove the male singer into a state of lingering psychological crisis. Harrison constantly sought every way to avoid the media lens, as well as the frenzied pursuit of obsessive fans. Entering the 1980s, a shocking tragedy occurred that turned Harrison's vague anxieties into an existential fear. This event permanently and completely altered his subsequent reclusive lifestyle. On December 8th, his close brother John Lennon was brutally assassinated right in front of the famous Dakota Building in New York. This horrific news immediately dealt a fatal blow to Harrison's inherently sensitive psyche. The shocking assassination left the former Beatles guitarist extremely paranoid about personal security. He realized that illustrious global fame could turn himself into the next target of a madman. The psychological nightmare overshadowed all daily activities, making Harrison no longer dare to freely step out of his house. He began to suspect all strangers appearing around his family's living area. To protect himself from lurking dangers, Harrison decided to carry out a voluntary isolation campaign of an immense scale. He spent millions of dollars from his personal fortune to renovate the entire strict security system at his mansion. The Friar Park Mansion in Henley-on-Thames, a grand Gothic architectural structure with 30 spacious bedrooms, was quickly transformed completely. A place that was once a peaceful artistic space suddenly became an impregnable fortress. Harrison had dense barbed wire fences installed to surround the vast perimeter of this fortified estate. Long-range surveillance camera systems, along with modern motion sensors, were installed in every hidden corner. Professional security guards were hired to patrol continuously 24 hours a day to prevent any illegal intrusion. Harrison completely severed direct contact with the outside entertainment world, living in reclusion with his family. Amidst the security crisis, heavy economic troubles continued to rain down on the lonely artist. The film production company named Handmade Films, which he co-founded, suddenly fell into a state of severe losses. The severe financial crisis combined with the psychological paranoia left Harrison completely at a dead end. Throughout these final years of the 1980s, he almost froze all of his professional musical activities. Just when the world seemed to have forgotten the talented artist who was imprisoning himself in fear of destiny named Jeff Lynne appeared opening up the next brilliant but also highly rebellious chapter, the salvation from Jeff Lynne. The year 1987 witnessed a major turning point when George Harrison decided to break his silence by planning the production of his comeback album, Cloud 9. To realize this ambitious project, he proactively extended an invitation to collaborate to the talented music producer Jeff Lynne. Accepting the offer, the leader of ELO officially moved to live directly at the fortified Friar Park Fortress Mansion. For the next 9 grueling months, both worked together in isolation within the home studio to search for unique and novel musical material. The presence of Jeff Lynne brought a breath of fresh air, helping Harrison temporarily forget the heavy psychological paranoia of the past. Lynne's meticulous music production style refined all of his initial raw recordings. The album Cloud 9, released in late 1987, quickly achieved massive commercial success on international charts. Continuous hits swept the European and American markets, bringing the former Beatles member back to the peak of brilliant fame. But behind the brilliant aura of this comeback, another complex psychological hidden corner began to reveal itself clearly. Even though he achieved great success as an individual, Harrison still carried a deep, primal fear of performing solo. To relieve the weighing psychological pressure, Harrison earnestly urged Jeff Lynne to quickly form a new band with him. He wanted to share the burden of global fame and the responsibility of public performance with trusted colleagues. That destiny gave birth to the legendary supergroup the Traveling Wilburys in mid-1988. The band's official lineup immediately shocked public opinion by gathering some of the greatest names in the history of world rock music. The appearance of the legendary Bob Dylan, along with star Tom Petty, created a solid artistic launching pad for the group. In addition, the participation of the genius vocalist Roy Orbison alongside Harrison and Jeff Lynne completed an unprecedented musical alliance. Together, they created classic works in an extremely free and liberal working atmosphere in the studio. This supergroup project not only liberated Harrison from artistic loneliness, but also brought pure joy. The group's studio albums continuously achieved sales of millions of copies, globally setting new records in the market. But this peak period of activity also inadvertently exposed the fierce dark side of the rock and roll entertainment culture of that era. Collaborating artist Robin Ford later authentically revealed the backstage full of temptations during the recording sessions of that era. Cocaine was on every studio shelf. This assertion accurately reflected the reality of the self-destructive lifestyle of the artistic community. Even though George Harrison himself was a deeply devout Buddhist who regularly practiced serious meditation, he still could not stand outside the vortex. He was gradually drawn into endless all-night parties of the rock star world and substance abuse. In addition, the heavy smoking habit from the youth of the former Beatles member continued with high frequency. Continuous smoking during recording sessions that lasted for many hours severely ravaged his respiratory system. The contradictory lifestyle between a pure spiritual philosophy on one hand and toxic living habits on the other sowed the seeds of misfortune. The male singer's health silently declined severely after years of explosive and rebellious artistic activity. The devastating consequence officially struck in 1997 when specialists discovered a malignant tumor in Harrison's throat. This critical illness was determined to be the direct result of his decades of heavy tobacco abuse. But destiny always has the most cruel twists. Right when George rediscovered his aura and peace alongside his soulmates, a bloody nightmare struck in the middle of a winter night, shattering the Friar Park Fortress. The battle of life and death. In late December 1999, as the world prepared to enter a new millennium, the Friar Park Fortress was suddenly torn apart by a bloody tragedy. George Harrison's million-dollar security system was completely powerless against a brutal intrusion beyond imagination. The perpetrator was Michael Abram, a 34-year-old man with a history of severe paranoid schizophrenia. Abram was frantically obsessed with the Beatles, constantly harboring extreme animosity aimed at the members of the group. He believed that the Beatles were evil witches manipulating the world, and claimed he received orders from God to end Harrison's life. The perpetrator spent days lurking around the fortified estate before deciding to act on a cold winter night. At exactly 3:30 a.m. on December 30th, 1999, Michael Abram officially broke into the Gothic architecture mansion. He used a large stone to smash the kitchen glass window, creating a terrifying noise that shattered the silence of the late night. Hearing the loud noise, George Harrison immediately left his bedroom to check the situation and protect his family. Facing the aggressive intruder who was holding a sharp weapon, the former Beatles member did not use violence but chose a peaceful dialogue to calm him down. Thanks to his deep spiritual faith, he continuously chanted the Hare Krishna mantra loudly, with the hope of awakening the opponent's mind. But all efforts were futile in the face of Abram's frenzy. He immediately rushed to launch a direct attack on the male singer. A brutal life-and-death battle broke out right within the narrow space of the ancient mansion. The perpetrator frantically swung his knife, stabbing the former guitarist's thin body, repeatedly initiating a truly horrific nightmare. Legal reports recorded that Harrison suffered dozens of severe deep stab wounds and cuts across his entire body. Among them, a fatal knife wound penetrated his right lung, causing acute effusion and coming just millimeters away from his aorta. Hearing the panicked cries for help, his wife Olivia Harrison immediately rushed into the room and witnessed a horrific, bloody scene. Facing the aggressive killer, she displayed extraordinary courage as she decided to intervene directly to save her husband. Olivia quickly grabbed a nearby brass lamp and a fireplace poker to use as self-defense weapons. She bravely rushed in, striking the perpetrator's head repeatedly, forcing him to let go of her husband, who was collapsing on the floor. The prolonged struggle left Olivia severely injured as well due to the frenzied resistance from Michael Abram. The local police chief later affirmed to the media she saved her husband's life through that brave action. Security forces quickly subdued the killer and rushed Harrison to the hospital in critical condition. Even when lying on the stretcher with a blood-covered body, the former singer still displayed a resilient spirit with a joke. Seeing a newly recruited security guard in a panic, Harrison directly whispered, What do you think of the job? This classic quote between the line of life and death became a clear testament to the resilient bravery of the musical legend. Michael Abram was subsequently arrested right at the scene and faced a trial for attempted murder in 2000. But the court ruled to acquit him on the grounds of insanity and ordered his detention at a strict psychiatric hospital. Although he survived the emergency surgery, the bloody attack left behind hidden and extremely devastating consequences. Having to remove a part of his severely damaged lung stripped away the final defensive shield of his body. Thank you for watching this special documentary report on the tragic and heroic hidden corners at the end of George Harrison's life. The story of the eternal friendship between him and Jeff Lynne will forever be a beautiful symbol in the history of world music. Please leave your perspectives in the comment section below regarding these newly revealed confessions. Do not forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the documentary channel to update the latest in-depth music news.